About 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the Jesuit order decided to leave Rathfarnham, and they put the castle and 8 acres of land on the market, and it was bought by building developers who had plans to build something like 130 houses up to within 40 feet of the castle building. Ultimately, after a successful campaign, the lands were acquired partially by Dublin County Council and partly by the Board of Works, the Office of Public Works.
And what are their plans for the castle now?
At the moment, as we understand it, they're trying to formulate a plan for the future of the castle. It depends on the availability of funds, really, to develop it. Ultimately, the County Council will have a 15-acre park surrounding the castle.
It's important to remember just why Rathfarnham Castle was built here. Rathfarnham was the last outpost of Dublin before you hit the countryside proper, and since the 12th century, garrisons here have been vital in defending Dublin from attacks from the mountainy men of Wicklow just outside the Pale. We're going to make our way through Rathfarnham from this historic castle, through the main street, through the parks, ending up at another prominent landmark on the Dublin horizon, the hunting lodge to the castle, which came to be known as the Hellfire Club. By the end of the journey, you'll see how the past meets the present and the city meets the country in Rathfarnham.
This is the house in which the Hughes brothers started their dairy. Now, of course, Hughes is owned by Premier Dairies, but I have with me a man who is a firm link to the past in that his dad was a dairyman and he now works for Premier Dairies. Sean Nolan, I suppose it's true to say there's milk in your blood.
Well, I suppose, Shay, it is true to say that, yes.
Now, tell me about this particular float here. You've rebuilt this lovely model here. Is this the kind of one that your dad drove?
Yes, that's an exact replica of the one that we had. We had our dairy in Clonskee, yes.
Would you believe there's one coming around the corner just now? Sean, would you hop up in this chariot and maybe we can reawake some of the memories of your childhood?
I'd be delighted to, Shay. Each dairyman, he had his own particular type of float, and they took great pride in these floats. They were polished, washed, the harness shining, the churns shining. The dairyman started to die out around about the early 50s. Now, some had gone before that, but generally speaking, in the 50s, they did die out. It was sad to see them going. It was sad.
All right, Sean, I want a pint of milk, and will you give us a tilly for the cat, or will you explain to me what a tilly for the cat is?
Tilly for the cat, Shay, yeah. Right?
Now that's the pint measure.
That's the pint measure.
And that goes in first.
That goes in first.
And here comes me tilly.
And here's the famous tilly. So famous.
Did it bring it all back to you being up on the float again?
It did, Shay, and taking this in my hand is just the same as getting back on a bicycle again. You just don't forget it.
Well, you take that, because I'm taking over with the can and everything else, and Val is going to take me up to Rathfarnham village, and I'm going to see who I meet up there in the main street. Thanks, Sean. Okay, Val, away we go. Whoa. Well, needless to remark, there was great curiosity and excitement at the reappearance of the milk float on the main street of the old village of Rathfarnham. Inevitably, it created stirrings of nostalgia and prompted memories from some of the long-time residents. Hello there, Jim. Next I met Jim Malloy, the local teacher. What were his memories of Rathfarnham?
Funny, I think most of all I remember it in autumn time. It seems to be always full of leaves. A very distinct memory I have is walking through leaves up to my knees. Yeah.
Was it very much a very rural village?
Oh, very much so, very much so. I mean, we sort of regarded, once you crossed over the Dodder into Turn, you were as going into foreign country altogether.
Hello there, Whacker. Whacker Collins is one of the best known and cheeriest people in all of Rathfarnham. Would you have been considered a poor family?
Yes, very much poor. Like. There was, well, look at it this way. There was 14. My father worked on the building when you could work. But then my mother had to go out and work on the land.
And what did she do?
Well, she snagged mangles.
And did all the women work? All the women in the area?
All the women in Rathfarnham worked. They had to work to make ends meet. The women, my own mother included, had to pick up the sheep droppings on the golf courses. And they'd hold it in their apron and put it in a big apron and they'd go off and throw it into the ditch.
And why would they have to pick up the sheep droppings?
Well, in those days, golf courses, the same as everywhere else, were all grazed by sheep.
Now, what would the women do when a golfer was coming through now to play a shot?
They'd have to bend down that way and back. And while the golfers would be playing and pitching up from the approach and up into the golf course, they'd empty the sack into the ditch.
Packer, do you like the changes that have taken place in Rathfarnham?
No, I don't. I like the change that people have more, but I don't like the atmosphere in general. Like, you know what I mean? The homely touch has gone out.
The Rathfarnham Concert Band is just one of the many attractions here at St Enda's Park over the summer. But the focal point of the estate is the museum dedicated to the memory of Patrick Pearse and his family.
The museum here opened in 1979. It had been renovated over the previous 10 years. It was obviously opened on the centenary of Patrick Pearse's birth, which was the 10th of November 1979. And it has run mostly as a small museum here in the centre of a 50-acre park since that date.
Most Irish school children know Patrick Pearse as a patriot. They'd probably be less aware of his keen interest in education. In 1910 he opened St Enda's School for boys in the comparative wilds of Rathfarnham. In 1935 the school closed. Gradually the building deteriorated till its restoration. So what attracted Pearse to Rathfarnham?
To sum it up in one word, he was a romantic. He was very much aware of the contrast at that stage between where he was at the time, which was in Collinswood House in Oakley Road in Ranelagh, and the countryside. He said to himself in 1910, the city gave no scope for that outdoor life, that intercourse with the wild things of the woods and the wastes, which ought to play so large a part in the education of a boy. I think Pearse had probably read his Wordsworth very well, and he saw that the influence of nature, at least as far as he was concerned, was a very important aspect of just educating anybody. So you could have called him sort of a green before the word green was invented, and this brought him out to Rathfarnham here.
Well, you're in charge of this house and estate at the moment. What sort of a facility is the park here? Do people really appreciate it?
We want people, when they come here, to experience the park as Pearse himself would have seen it, or as near as at least as we can. So we're trying to interpret the place historically. We would like more and more people to come and use it, especially now as we have such a wonderful range of amenities in the park.
Well, it's really nice having a park like this that you can visit the odd time, whenever the urge takes you. But most of us only have a tiny patch of green out the back to call our own. Shay's found some people in Rathfarnham who've given their gardens a very individual stamp indeed.
What is your fascination with gnomes?
Well, I love the garden and I don't think it's nice without them. Now in the beginning there were only some plastic ones. They used to break very easy, you know, after a winter.
And is your garden known to everybody now in Rathfarnham at this stage?
Well, they say it's a landmark.
Well, Julie, Pegnam certainly has an unusual garden, but if you think it's the only unusual garden in Rathfarnham, you are mistaken, because I'm here now at the home of Philip and Evelyn Byrne, and you're in for a few more surprises. You have lots of unusual things here. Philip, tell me about the old water pumps that you have.
They mostly get them off of people when they're going around, working and that,
Yeah, but not in Dublin, of course.
No. Some of them has got in Dublin.
Yeah.
A lot of them has got up in the Dublin mountains. We got a lot of off here, the nuns and the priests. We got some off the priests in Rathfarnham.
Would you keep your eye out now for a statue that might be available?
I'd go in and ask in places.
What kind of places would you go in now?
I'd mostly go into to the nuns and ask,
Now, also, Philip, you have some very old chimney pots there. How far back do they go?
I'd say they go back about 100 years ago.
And where did you come across those?
I got them in an old Jordan house here in Rathfarnham. They were going to, they knocked it down,
Now, apart from all the stuff in the garden, up on top of the garage here, you have a collection of birds. But down underneath, you have something very special, don't you? Can we go and have a look at that?
Yeah, certainly.
Well, what great surprise are we in for here? Philip, you lead on. Well, hello there. Fancy that. A full-grown peacock in a garden in Rathfarnham.
Morning, Seamus. Morning, Paddy.
How are you?
I have the wellies, like you warned me. Now,
You lead them.
right, are we off?
Yeah, right.
Right, come on.
We're off. When I went to school, my father, he cut turf. That's from back in 1948, 50, 51. And we came up as children. And we liked it up here. That was a great thing. He came up on a lorry that time. And it cost a shilling to come up on the lorry. Main fuels that time, People depended on it. Well, here in Dublin now, I cut and I throw up the sod myself. But down the country, in parts of the country, especially down in Kerry where my relations come from, where they live, and in South Kerry, and one person cuts and he just tops out the sod, and then you have a fella down in the hole, and he is what they call the brancher, and he branches the turf up with a pike. Down in Kerry they called me a slán of one man. That's what they called me in Kerry.
Because you work on your
Because
own.
I threw the sod up as well as cutting it myself. I done a man out of a job like.
How does it work out financially? I mean, how much does it cost you to get all the turf off this bog?
Well, it costs you £25 to buy the bank, to rent the bank.
For a year?
You rent that from Power Court Domain, and they own the bogs here. And then you have to pay for your diesel to come up and down, but on the whole it doesn't cost you that much extra for the diesel. We're living fairly near to the bogs here, Right, buddy. The weather's a terrible lot to do with it. If you get good weather, you can get the turf out of the mountains very early in the year. Like we say by June, the end of June, July. But last year, we had a very bad year, and I didn't bring home the last of my turf till September.
Seamus, that is an amazing amount of turf for a domestic bunker. How long would that turf last you?
Oh, we get two winters out of what's there, but then I'll cut next year again, because the year might come that I wouldn't be able to cut.
How's the weather this year compared with other years?
The weather's very good this year to us, very good. We couldn't have had it better.
Do you consider this to be living in the country or living in the city?
Well, partly the city now, but one time it was the country, One time we had it as the country we were out in here. Like, it was just a few houses in it. You knew everybody in the parish. But now with all the new houses, you wouldn't know a quarter of the people.
Yeah, but I'm just listening to a very noisy rooster in the background and a couple of other things. I mean, are you running a farm or a home or a house here?
I always kept them as a hobby. All these things, I just kept them. We always had them, all our lives.
And do you think that Rathfarnham is a particularly good place for that kind of thing?
Well, there's a good few people. Well, the odd few people up the mountains now, a good few people keep them. But there are still a few around here keep them.
And how far away are you from O'Connell Street?
We're 5 miles from the GPO.
And you can keep roosters, hens, and run your own bog?
Yep, a whole lot.
Rathfarnham has often been called the lung of Dublin City, providing oxygen. And one of the principal places that provides that oxygen is Marley Park, over 200 acres of green expanse here in the Dublin foothills. Now, there are certain things you're not allowed to do in Marley. You're not allowed to cycle your bike. You're not allowed to bring in your car. Dogs must be on a lead. Children under 12 must be on a lead. I'm only joking about that. Children under 12 must be accompanied by an adult. But apart from those restrictions, anything goes. And there's a great range of amenities here. And I think it's a fantastic place. But you don't have to believe me. Let's talk to some experts. What's Marley Park like?
Oh, give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze and listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in.
Just turn me loose, let me...
David Rowe, do an taisce see Marley Park is a very important amenity?
Oh yes, it's a tremendously important amenity, a great advantage to the city actually. The original concept of Marley Park and St Enda's, which is on the northern end of it, pointing in towards the suburbs of Dublin, was a wedge of green amenity land running straight out from the city up to the mountainside, uninterrupted. The worst example that you will see before very long is a house about 100 feet from the top of Kilmashogue. So there's a
Marley itself is not in any immediate danger, is it?
No, Marley is in no danger whatsoever. Marley is a godsend to us. It's in no danger. It's great.
Oh, give me land, lots of land under starry skies.
Leaving the city behind. It's very easy from Rathfarnham to do that. Killikee, lots of places, and it's very good for the soul. It's also very close to town for when you have to go to work. Go to the Pine Forest or up towards the Hellfire Club. Dublin 25 years ago, and I wanted to practice. It was very difficult because I was always living in flats and digs in town. But out here, Rathfarnham, it's very easy. Nobody has ever bothered me in the 17 years that I've been living here.
Saxophonist is Keith Donald, a member of Moving Hearts. Just one in the long and illustrious roll call of well-known people who have found the harmony of city and country in Rathfarnham conducive to creativity. Evie Hone, the famous stained glass artist, worked here for a long time. William Butler Yeats, when he lived here, found inspiration for his poetry. And Tom Moore, that man who created such wonderful melodies in his lifetime, reputedly wrote his lovely ballad, Oft in the Stilly Night, right here in Rathfarnham. One of the most famous authors born in Rathfarnham was John Millington Synge, the author of Playboy of the Western World and so many other wonderful plays and works. And today... Well, we started our journey down at the gates of Rathfarnham Castle, and here we are now at the end, at the gates of hell. Or so legend would have us believe, because this is the famous Hellfire Club, where the young bucks of Dublin would come to disport themselves in lewd and lascivious behaviour between the years of 1720 and 1741 at the hunting lodge of Thomas Connolly, who was Speaker of the House of Commons. They say that during all this wanton behaviour, they always kept a spare place at table for his lordship the devil. And you can believe that if you like. For me, I think the devil business is a load of old piffle.
Well, I guess that just goes to show that you shouldn't mess with things you don't know about, especially in a place like this. Well, that was our visit to Rathfarnham, a little bit of city, a little bit of country. I hope you enjoyed it.